Hey everyone, Zenzo with Aquarium Co-op, and today I'm going to give you a tour of the new fish room. Now, the last time we made a video about this room, we didn't have the aquarium set up, so now, as you can see behind me, there's water in tanks. So I thought I would take you kind of through the entire process of how I set up this fish room and what to expect as we start to get fish coming in. Now, if you're a member of this channel, you've seen and heard about these tanks. You've heard about the progress. You've seen them in the background of our member-only podcast. If you're not a member, check it out. We have a monthly live stream with an expert in the aquarium hobby. We also have our weekly podcast, and you get 5% off of everything in our retail store and online at aquariumcoop.com. All right, well, let me go ahead and grab the camera. We'll go around the room. I'll show you the tanks. We'll talk about the filtration. We'll talk about the drain system. We'll talk about the air system. We'll talk about what's coming up with an auto water change system. Let's go. All right, switching cameras, going to iPhone. Is this gonna make it a little bit less jittery for all of you? Because I'll be walking around and talking, and there's lots of motion, and I don't wanna get anyone dizzy. But first off, let's talk about how I set up this room and kind of the infrastructure and what's going on. So first off, we have these cobalt tool chests. Now, the great thing about these tool chests is that's exactly what they are. They're tool chests, right? So I can just open a drawer, have all my stuff in there, have a bunch of products that I need. There's some extra lights. I've got 300 feet of airline tubing. I got some Casa timers. Over here, I've got my fish food, so I can just open up a drawer. I've got all my favorite fish foods that I use. You can see here, I write the name of the food on there, so I know like, oh, that's Magic Small Fish Feed. That's Tubifex worms, because it's kind of hard to tell with the tops. More to come on that in the future as we're making something a little bit easier for you guys. So anyway, these tool chests are great because they hold a lot of stuff, but they also hold a lot of weight. There was a lot of question as far as, will these things be strong enough? They have been just fine. Plenty strong enough to hold 5 65-gallon tanks. I'll talk about the tanks in a second. So anyway, we have these 4 cobalt tool chests. You'll notice that there's a gap underneath. Now that gap is created by 1 inch of PVC. Not PVC, I'm sorry, acrylic. So I took some 1/2 inch acrylic and took some acrylic cement, sandwiched them together, cut them on a table saw, made these giant rectangles, and they support the weight of the tanks and the tool chests, and they elevate the tanks off the floor just a little bit so that air can flow through there. So in the event of spilling, no matter how well we take care of things, there's gonna be some water that gets on the floor. It'll keep it from sitting, it'll allow it to dry. If something happens, I spill some fish food, I can stick a vacuum nozzle down there and get to it. So it's just overall creating some airflow. Now, the tanks. We have 5 65-gallon aquariums. These are 3 feet wide, 18 inches front to back. So just like a 40 breeder, the difference is that a 40 breeder stops right about there and a 65 goes all the way up here. They're 24 inches tall. If I were to stand next to these, they come to just about shoulder height. So definitely a little stool is gonna come in handy for servicing stuff in the bottom and the back. I can reach in there and touch the bottom with my hands like on my tippy toes, but it can be a little bit tall, so I've got a stool in here. Now these tanks, I actually left the label on one of them just to show all of you. These are the Aquarium Masters tanks. They're made by Aquarium Masters, Aquarium Ministries in Chino, California. And a couple of great things about these. One, the back, the sides, the front even, it's non-tempered, meaning that you can drill these tanks. You can see in here that I've got bulkhead fittings. Let me see if we can get there. There's a bulkhead fitting back there. I do have the strainers for them. I ordered them from Gemco. I just haven't installed them just yet. I don't have fish in there, so I'm not worried about anything going down the drain. But yes, these tanks are not tempered on the sides. The bottom is tempered, so you can't drill the bottom on these. Look, there's Corey's hand. He's doing some feeding. The other great thing about these is they're very sturdy. The glass is very thick, which is good and bad. When you're drilling these, You're gonna go through some drill bits because they are so thick, but they are very well made, and they have the black acrylic, or not the acrylic, but the silicone, which means that you're not gonna have clear silicone that's gonna get algae and everything on it. It's black, it looks better, and they're just very well made. The tops are great, so that's what we have for tanks. Now, let me go and talk a little bit about the drain. That was a big part of this, getting water out of the aquariums. So it's a little bit dark, so it's gonna be hard to see some of this stuff. Here we have 2-inch ABS. And this is just a little cap that I put because I wanna be able to also do manual water changes. So we did set this up for automatic water changes, but there are times when you're doing, draining a tank or, gravel vacuuming, and you need to have manual drain. And I could just put a hook there, a little python hook or something, and run a hose to any tank and just drain right down the drain. The other day I was doing a water change over here, and I just ran the hose over here, went right down the drain. We do have the ability to expand. So I did put a T there, it's just capped here for now, but later on I might do a rack in this closet, and we can bring the drain around so we can drain those tanks. So that's the drain. I'll show you how the drain, I can't obviously show you the drain itself because it's down low, but basically it comes over here and then it goes in a slope, a gradual slope down to the back here, and then it goes out the wall. And then every few feet, there's a 2-inch ABS pipe that comes up, and then there's a hose that's connected to all of my PVC fittings that drops down into those. So when the water level goes up to a certain level, it overflows, it goes down the drain. And that's how the auto water change system will work. Let me go outside and show you how this actually is gonna work on the other side, and then I'll come back and we'll go behind the tank and I'll show you some more. So out here, sliding glass door, we've got the deck, there's the ocean. And then over here, I drilled a hole in my wall. It was kind of the no turning back moment. So that's a 2-inch, well, it's larger than 2 inches because of the outside diameter, but drilled a hole in the wall and then ran that 2-inch ABS pipe through and down, drilled through my deck. Let me show you how thick this wood is. That's how thick that deck board, that the boards are for the deck. So quite thick. It was, took a little, didn't take too much time, but just wanted to save that little piece to show you. Anyway, so that comes through the wall, down, it drops down about 10 feet or so, a little bit less than 10 feet. I think that's a 10-foot pipe, I'm not sure. But anyway, drops down, and then it goes all the way across, and then it terminates right there off the ground. And I've got a cap on that. The cap is drilled, and then the water drains right there. Eventually, actually, Master Breeder Dean was over a couple weeks ago. We were talking about maybe I could do like a vegetable garden here, or maybe a Daphnia pond, which would be awesome for some live fish food. But anyway, that's where the drain goes. While I'm out here, let's talk about the air system, as we need air for aquariums, right? So in here, this is my little shed for just aquarium supplies and pumps and hoses and nets and all that nonsense. But anyway, here is my linear piston air pump. I have it in here. Why? Because I don't want to hear that little vibration. It's pretty quiet anyway, but I don't want to hear a vibration. I don't want it to rattle on anything while I'm in my office, on a video call, making videos, etc. So I put it out here. I live in California. We don't freeze. We don't get very cold. I could always insulate this box if I wanted to, but I'm not worried about it pumping cold air into the aquariums really, because again, I don't live where it gets cold. And then the way that I did it is I drilled through the wall again. If you're gonna drill through a wall, make sure there's no electrical in there. I have a stud finder that also has an electric component setting, so you can make sure there's no electrical. But anyway, drilled through the wall and then ran 2-inch ABS. And the ABS in this situation is just a conduit. So it's just allowing me to put stuff through. So I ran my 1-inch PVC through for the air pump, And then I also ran the power for the air pump itself. And then I ran secondary power out here with a strip that's not plugged in, but in the event I need something, I can do that. And then I filled it with expanding foam so that no critters can get through, but also I don't want any, temperature or noise or anything coming through, just sealed off. So that goes through this thing and then through the wall back there and then into the house. So now we'll go back around and we'll look at the back of the tanks. All right, so back inside, here is where that PVC comes through, that conduit, and then it comes up and it goes all the way across the room and back down and over there. Now right here, you'll see that it's capped off, and these are just extra little hangers I've got. I'm not using them right now, but you'll see I've got an air line. Right now I have it open and it's just kind of bleeding into like a little muffler that I made with some sound foam and towels to a little bit of bleed off, because I only have 6 tanks connected to the system right now. But also we can expand in the future. I can take this PVC, come around, because eventually probably going to do some kind of rack system in here. This is a 10-foot closet, so I could easily do like a 4-foot rack right there. Right now it's just storing extra aquariums and stuff, and I have this dresser in here that's got meds and everything in there that I don't really need. So later on that'll go away. So let me show you how the air works. So it comes through, and then I just ran this 1-inch PVC all the way across. And then here you can see, let me go right here. We can see that I just put in our barb fittings and I ran air line to each tank. We've got a check valve, we've got an adjustment valve, so I can adjust the flow and keep these wide open, and I don't have to worry about any water siphoning back in there in the event of any power outage, although really wouldn't be an issue. But anyway, doing that. And then here we can see the overflow system. Let me try to climb back here. So there's the back of the bulkhead. It comes out. This was a Master Breeder Dean design. It's really nice because it allows for a flush bulkhead in the back. Let me move this lid here. Yeah, there we go. Flush bulkhead in the back, which I will put the strainer in. And it keeps the level like right at where the rim is. But it's kind of a slower flow. So when we do add the auto water change system, we'll have to regulate it so that it's just the right amount of water going in. But anyway, the way that this works is the water comes up, comes out, goes down, and then it goes down into a drain. You can see the drain right there. If I can focus on it, maybe not. But anyway, so it drains down there and then goes outside as you saw. You might be wondering, why do I have these amazing Aquarium Co-op Easy Planning LEDs? Well, that's because I was hoarding them and I was saving a few. So I have a few of these left over. I even have some smaller sizes in the future. But yep, so we have that. And then let's talk about filtration. And why do these tanks look so terrible, Zenzo? Why is there a bunch of mold in there? Well, there's a good reason. So first off, you'll see, hey, what are those? Those are undergravel filters. I was talking to Corey the other day, and I said the last time I used an undergravel filter was 2007. So that's 19 years ago. I had a 55-gallon aquarium set up with a bunch of Mbuna that were, doing their Mbuna thing, and I used undergravel filters with power heads on top of them. So here we've got the Aquarium Co-op power heads. I'm gonna set up a couple of these with power heads. Not sure which tank yet, but I also have the Easy Flow set up on them as well, which is really nice. So anyway, more to come on these in the future. We'll be making videos talking about the undergravel filters. Also have the Aquarium Co-op sponge filters. I went with black on these ones. I do have green ones in here. So let's talk about why these are dirty. Well, if I were a new fish keeper, or if I didn't already have a bunch of African cichlids eating and pooping every day, making nice mulm and beneficial bacteria, or keeping that bacteria fed, I would need to have some kind of bacteria source to help speed up the cycle process so we can add fish and inhabitants to these tanks. I did put in some ammonia. We have the Fritz Fishless fuel here. I've got a few bottles of this stuff. So I did dose with ammonia. I do have some TurboStart in the fridge in the other room. I put that in there as well. But what I did is the other day when I was doing a water change, I swapped out the sponge filters. So there we've got brand new sponge filters. And over here, we have the sponge filters that were, let me turn off this light, that were, there we go, that were in that African cichlid tank, because they're already established. They're seeded with lots of good beneficial bacteria. So I put them in here and squeeze them out a little bit. I did feed this tank a little bit of ammonia and stuff like that to keep that bacteria going. And you can see some of the residual mulm from me squeezing. And then I really went kind of crazy on it in this tank and did a full-on sponge filter squeezing in this tank, because these are brand new sponge filters, and then this tank as well. Now, they're not gonna always look like this. One, there's no substrate, but two, I really put in a bunch of gunk in there to make these ready to have fish in them as you know, sooner than later. Before I put fish in there, I will do a vacuum and clean some of this out, but I did a test and using our ammonia strips, of course, as multi-test strips. And these 3 tanks didn't have measurable ammonia. These 2 had a little bit of ammonia. I did add that TurboStart in there, but they had a little bit of ammonia where these had none, because I obviously squeezed that good bacteria in there and not in there. So what's gonna be going in here? Well, putting in goldfish. I'm actually gonna be doing goldfish in these, and we're going to have that fun goldfish competition grow out thing. So anyway, that is what's going on with these tanks. Just thought we would do a quick little update video and show a little bit behind the scenes. We haven't talked about heaters yet because I don't have heaters set up in these aquariums, so we'll need to figure out that in the future. Still need to pick out a substrate. In the future, we'll talk about what fish I'm gonna put in there. I do have some ideas, but not 100% sure yet. And oh, and the last thing, the air. So that PVC comes over, drops down, and I'm running a couple lines of airline tubing over here, and then they drop in and take care of these tanks. All right, well, that was the video. Hopefully you enjoyed this little behind the scenes and getting to see what's going on in this fish room. Excited to finally have several aquariums to where I can add fish and start to play with things again. And then sometime in the future, we'll get that rack system set up in there, and we'll have a bunch of aquariums in there as well. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Consider being a member on the channel. We'll catch you on the next one.